Okay, thanks, Jason. Yeah, I think to accelerate BIM adoption, we do need, industry, we need government, but we also need the tech companies, because they're the people that are driving innovation. If you think about it, you're developing the new technology. So that's one of the strategies why we included those ingredients in that last component. If the three speakers could just join us for about 5-10 minutes, I think you deserve some questions, if you don't mind, Jason and Stephen and Tony. So I suppose I'll just throw a question out there to you, Tony. This BIM requirement, you welcome this?
Yeah, it's a must, I think. There's a couple of things that I have come to mind when you mention BIM and it being mandated by government. We've seen the proposal of BIM to be mandated by government in the UK, and it was mandated but not enforced.
Yeah.
Which was a major problem for the industry thereafter, because it sent a load of mixed messages, and then it sent the wrong message to the industry that it wasn't required. So the mandation of it is one thing, but the enforcement of that mandate then right down to the foundations of the building.
I think they used the term, didn't they, back then, relieved the complexity to the supply chain. I think that was the language they used in the UK. They just set the date and...
Yeah, it was supposed to be 1st of January 2015.
Yep.
And it's only after really coming in properly in the last year, and it still needs to be enforced properly. So if there was anything I'd say there, that'd be a big thing.
Do we have a roving mic? Do we have any other questions? Yes? Any questions? Yes, we've one here. Louis.
Thanks, Alan. I came here today with a whole lot of questions for Stephen, and he answered the whole lot of them while he was up there, so thanks for that, Stephen. There was just one that you said there was going to be a panel of information managers put together. Could you give us a timeline on when that might happen?
Well, I suppose the next BIM masterclass, I'll be actually talking to all of the public and civil servants that are involved in all the major organisations. And at that meeting, I'm actually requesting nominees from each of those departments to come forward. I don't want to be the one to be seen that says this is what information managers must have. We need to have a collaborative process around what roles and functions we feel that those people need to bring to the table in the Irish construction sector. And I expect that I will have at least 7 or 8 people that will help us develop a role profile for information management through PAS. PAS are also involved. That's the Public's Appointment Service. So they've given me a commitment that they will assist with the development and delivery of that panel of people. But that's going to depend on how quickly our own people get involved and see the need to contribute to how that role is going to be developed.
Yeah, and can I just thank you for that, but just also say that for anybody who's in this room here, there's a whole other new area of work has just opened up for you guys. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole lot of new opportunities, and I know there certainly will be one in TU Dublin and Grange Gorman very shortly as well. And I've been asked by my colleagues to advertise that here and now. Thanks.
Just a message to the CitA team. The last presentation might put up so we can speed things up. Have a final presentation. Yeah, question here, yeah, but just to put the presentation up if we don't mind. Yeah,
it's a question for Stephen from Simon McGuinness.
Simon, yeah.
From Simon McGuinness in the Department of Housing. Have you looked at the common data environment and the creation of that in terms of each local authority has their own IT system and their own IT manager? And how is that going to work out? How is the common data environment going to be actually established for the public service and for the local authorities?
Do you want a solution, or is that an excuse?
It's a question.
I know, yeah. For me, I have looked at that issue. And I mean, if you go back last year with what happened in the HSE with the breach that nearly shut down all the hospitals in the country, security-minded approach is something that has to be considered by every organisation. And there is a solution there. It's a cloud-based server, separate to your own internal system, that you can upload all your information for the project about and also feed it back down into your own system without anyone else having access to that. That solution is there and that technology is there. So for me, that is the solution. It's not any more complex or misunderstood than that. The technology is there, so use it. So it does mean that organisations are going to have to invest and develop with their own cloud-based server. I would love to be able to say, yeah, we can provide one single server for everybody, but it's just not possible. It's too large.
Okay, question from Malachy. Matthews, is it? Yeah.
Stephen, just to continue that, the BIM mandate is post-planning, is that correct?
No, BIM mandate is from initiation.
From initiation. Mm-hmm. So am I correct in saying that you're going to implement the use of the BIM model in the planning process?
I don't like the use of the word BIM model. This is about information management. That's what BIM is.
The BIM database.
Yeah.
We know that planners make their decisions based on hard documents or PDFs and reports, which is they're not getting the full story, and we know the planning disasters that are a result of that.
Okay.
So unless you do that, you're missing a trick here. So what you've done there reminds me of what the UK did 8 years ago. Now we should learn from that and include the planning process in this process. Yeah. Okay, you get the added advantage. You talk to secure servers where, say, the planners could have access to models where they can run the type of scripts that the type of information gathering, data information gathering that were demonstrated at this conference here in terms of carbon, embodied carbon, global warming, potential of materials and things like that, which I don't think the UK dealt with 8 years ago because it wasn't necessarily on the agenda in the way that it is now on the agenda. So I think you're missing a trick here.
I absolutely disagree with what you said. If you had been involved in all of the meetings I've been involved in the last 4 years trying to deliver this, all of those things you've talked about have been considered. At the moment, there is a digital submission for planning applications at the moment. That's just gone live. I know because I looked at one last week. It actually works. I haven't seen the result come back yet, but it lodged itself. It did everything it was asked to do. But to me, that process is still based around making a digital print of a virtual model, which is wrong. And I do agree with you, it needs to be taken to the next level. We have discussed this issue with colleagues from across Europe. Estonia are the only place at the moment that are doing this with any great level of success. But it has taken them 3 years to get to the point where they can digitally read an application for fire cert, was the first thing they did. And the second thing they're looking at now is planning. The problem they have is, how does the technology interpret a model that you would develop or someone else would develop? There has to be a consistency on the production of the model in order for them to get there.
I'll sit down with you afterwards and I'll tell you how.
Okay.
That's okay. I'll be glad to hear it.
Maybe one more question. We're going to close then. Yes, Paul Vesey from. Yeah.
Again, follow-up question for yourself. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on coming up with what seems like an intelligent approach to the rollout. I think a phased approach was definitely a good way to go, and it also reflects what is happening in the industry: design first, then build. So congratulations on that. Now, my question really is in relation to us in academia, and one of the issues we have is availability of good building information modeling data for us to be able to teach with and learn from and research and all the rest. Now, as you go through this process of capturing this data, will there be elements of it released into the public domain for us to research on, or has that been considered or anything like that?
It has been considered. We're working in partnership with Build Digital, and we're actually looking for organisations to come forward, not with eyes of scrutiny. It's with eyes of willingness to learn, and learn from things that went well and from things that didn't go so well. We're hoping to be able to make projects that don't have security elements attached to them available through Build Digital for people to be able to go in and learn from. And again, the documentation, the structure of it, all of those nice things will come out of that and develop into a portal for a suite of documents that people can use if they're starting BIM for the first time.
That's very good news. Thank you indeed.
I wish it well. I wish it well. I'm sure it'll do. It's what we need. We need the decision. We need to move on. And I think you're probably right.